Jackie, are you seeing winter tracks? Awesome. Thank you. Again, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for a lesson on winter tracking. I'm Pammy Price. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the preserve naturalist and educator at the Albany Pine Bush Preserve. I'll be joined tonight by Jackie, and she'll introduce herself a little bit later. We'll be co-hosting tonight. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A box and we'll answer them at the end of the presentation. We hope that by the time we finish the presentation tonight, you'll be able to understand the difference between a track pattern, and trail, be able to identify 3 to 4 different animal tracks, be able to recognize several animal signs, and understand some of the adaptations animals in the pine bush use in the winter. But first, let me just tell you a little bit about the globally rare, nationally significant, and locally distinct Albany Pine Bush Preserve. The scientific name of the rare ecosystem we're managing at the Albany Pine Bush is Northeastern Interior Pine Barrens, also known as an inland pine barrens. The pine barrens ecosystem is similar to coastal pine barrens found in New Jersey, Cape Cod, and Long Island, but it's different because it occurs inland. So the inland pine barrens of the Albany Pine Bush are home to many different natural communities, and each one of those communities are defined by the plants that grow there. These include the globally rare inland pitch pine scrub oak barrens. There are fewer than 20 of these inland pitch pine scrub oak barren communities left in the whole world. But these ecosystems support many rare plant and animal species, and they are made up of pitch pine trees and scrub oak. We have 2 species of scrub oak, dwarf chestnut and bare oak. Another community is the Pine Barrens vernal ponds, which get their water from precipitation and groundwater. There are also our awesome successional northern sandplain grasslands with big blue stem, little blue stem, and other prairie grasses. And we also have pitch pine oak forests. So, why is the pine bush protected to begin with? In the 1970s, multiple development projects had been proposed for the Albany area, including Crossgates Mall, which opened in 1984. And in 1977, the Karner blue butterfly was listed as a state endangered species. And in 1992, it was listed as a federally endangered species. But in 1978, a grassroots organization called Save the Pine Bush organized to try to stop further destruction of the pine bush and to protect this really unique natural area. They were super instrumental in helping advocate for the pine bush, and along with many others, are still advocating for and helping the pine bush today. In 1988, in light of a proposed expansion of the municipal landfill, it was determined that a minimum of 2,000 acres were needed to be protected for the endangered Karner blue butterfly. And so, due to the efforts of all these people, in 1988, the New York State Legislature created the Albany Pine Bush Preserve Commission in order to protect and manage the pine bush ecosystem. Our mission statement is to protect and manage the unique and endangered natural communities and species of the Albany pine bush for ecological benefits and controlled and appropriate public recreational and educational use. And that mission statement has been our guideline since 1988 and basically everything we do here at the preserve. The commission board is made up of individuals from the town of Colony, the town of Guilderland, the city of Albany, the county of Albany, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, the Nature Conservancy, and four citizen members that are appointed by the governor. So there's a lot of different people that are helping to make decisions. And the New York State government not only supports the Albany Pine Bush Preserve Commission, but a significant portion of our funding also comes from the New York State budget. So, where is the Albany Pine Bush Preserve? It's located in what is present day the Capital District region of New York State between Schenectady and Albany, near the Hudson and Mohawk Rivers. And our Discovery Center is on New Carter Road, also known as Route 155. And the New York State Thruway runs right through the middle of the pine bush. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but this is the Thruway, and this whole thing is a map basically of the pine bush study area. So, so far we have protected over 3,400 acres, but we're not done yet. We're hoping to protect 5,380 acres as land becomes available. Um, so basically, the Pine Bush study area is bounded by Central Avenue on the northern border and Western Avenue down here on the southern border. And then Fuller Road is on the eastern edge, and the Schenectady County line over here somewhere um, is the western border. So all these colored lines are trails that are in the preserve. So, one of the most important features of the pine bush is that the soil here is all sand. And in fact, the hills that you see when you walk around on the pine bush are all sand dunes. And the Albany Pine Bush was recognized as a National Natural Landmark in 2014 because of the sandy soil and formation and a combination of the unusual plant and animal species. And that's a designation that encourages the conservation of both public and private sites that contain really outstanding biological and geological resources. Um, so you might wonder how the sand got here. So a little more than 20,000 years ago, most of present-day New York State was covered with a mile-high glacier. And when that glacier melted, it created a really big lake named Glacial Lake Albany, which extended from around present-day Glens Falls to present-day Newburgh. That lake drained and deposited sand, and all along this area that's outlined here is Glacial Lake Albany. Um, and so it deposited sand in this area, which became part of the Pine Bush, part of the Pine Bush is part of, and that was called the Greater Glacial Lake Albany Sand Belt. So, once that sand was here, the wind blew the sand and formed these really cool dune fields. And even though the sand was dry and nutrient poor, plants that were adapted to living in sandy soils took root. And these are some examples of some of the plants we have here in the pine bush. They have strong, deep root systems to hold them in place and to reach water. And they also have relationships with the fungi and bacteria in the soil and things also in the air to help them to get nutrients from those sandy soils. We have over 750 plant species in the pine bush, and some of the plants shown here are scrub oak, huckleberry. We also have blueberries. We also show Indian grass, one of our ferns, bracken fern. We have lots of wildflowers, and of course, our pitch pines. And besides the endangered cardinal blue butterfly, which I spoke about earlier, there are over 70 New York species of greatest conservation need that have been documented in the Albany Pine Bush since 1980. We have 33 species of reptiles and amphibians, including some uncommon species like the blue-spotted salamander, spotted turtle, and the eastern spadefoot and eastern hognose snakes that are both shown here. At least 39 species of mammals have been documented here, including the short-tailed weasel, eastern cottontail, white-tailed deer, eastern coyote, and red and gray fox. The gray fox is shown in this picture, and raccoons, just to name a few. We have at least 205 species of birds that use the pine bush, including the prairie warblers, this nice little bird that's shown here. And like I said before, we have over 750 species of plants, and we have over 2,800 species of insects. And with all the species of birds that we have here that are using the preserve, the Albany Pine Bush has also been designated as an important bird area by the Audubon Society and a New York State Bird Conservation Area by the New York State DEC and the New York State OPRHB. So we have to take care of this special place, and we do this by using a lot of different techniques. For centuries, fire has shaped Albany's pine barrens. This is a fire-adapted ecosystem. Scientists believe that historically, the pine bush burned every 10 to 12 years due to lightning strikes, and we know that indigenous peoples intentionally set controlled fires on the landscape in the past. Today, the Albany pine bush uses prescribed fire and other techniques to restore and maintain pine barrens habitat. Prescribed fire is purposely set fire by specially trained people under specific controlled conditions. And fire benefits the pine barrens in several ways by maintaining open conditions, by helping seed dispersal and germination, and by reducing the duff layer, which is all the organic material on the ground, like sticks and leaves and things like that. Another way to open up the landscape is with mowing. This is done mostly in the fall by using a fecon mower. Mowing is also done to prepare for prescribed fires, and that's usually done about a year ahead of when we want to burn that area to give the vegetation some time to dry out. We also sometimes use whole tree removal with overabundant tree species like black locust, and we sometimes even remove native trees like pitch pine and red maple when we need to thin them out. And we really, really, really don't have any other way to do it. We do use herbicides to control certain plant species that can't be controlled by mowing or burning. And today, the Albany Pine Bush Preserve has 12 trailheads, over 22 miles of hiking trails, um, and lots of sand. So you might be thinking that it would be a good place to go and look for animal tracks all year long. And in winter, it's doubly fun because if there's snow on the ground, you may see even more. So, to the main focus of tonight, winter tracks. So winter is a great time to learn about tracks. since the snow on the ground really does make it easier to see animal tracks and signs. These are the topics that we will be covering that are related to animal tracking. So, animal tracking can be defined as following the course or trail of something in order to find them, what they might be doing, or note their location. So, we will be defining all of these topics in more detail later in the presentation. So we'll start with some vocabulary that we'll be using throughout the rest of the presentation. These are words that are used when animal tracking. We'll break them down one by one as we go along later. So, a track is the impression of a single foot or a footprint. A track pattern is a series of tracks showing the sequence of an animal's steps. A trail is a long line of tracks showing the animal's movements and behavior. Stride is the distance between two consecutive tracks. Straddle is the width of a track pattern or trail. Habitat is where an animal finds food, water, shelter, and space. Animal sign is an indication of an animal's passage through an area. It can be things like scat, chews, rubs, marks, or food remains. And an adaptation is a particular change that helps the animal or plant to survive under new conditions. An adaptation happens usually over a very long time. So remember these words. You will definitely hear them again. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jackie to talk about how we can figure out who left which tracks behind and what they may have been doing. I'm going to stop sharing and let Jackie share. You got to unmute yourself, Jackie. You're still muted. Here he comes. You'll get it. I have faith in you. There's your screen. Now we just need your voice.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I am so sorry.
No.
Hi, everybody. My name's Jackie. I'm the lead educator at the Albany Pine Bush Preserve, if you've not met me before. And thank you, Pammy, for that great introduction to the Pine Bush and animal tracking tonight. So just to start really quick, everybody, I know you're here to learn about animal tracking. I'd like you to just take a moment to kind of shift your perspective a little from a human wanting to learn and observe animal tracks to understanding and thinking from an animal's perspective. To start, all animals need to survive. For example, they just don't simply go out for a walk. They may need to move from a place of shelter to get food, but they also need to be aware of predators, all while conserving energy. That's a big part of the wintertime tracking. So let's get started. And we are going to start with what is a track? And I'd also like to mention that if you think of the rest of the presentation, we're going to start out very focused and then we're going to kind of zoom out as we look at more and more clues. So what is a track? As Pammy mentioned, a track is a single footprint, an impression. Here is a simple deer track, as if I just took the deer hoof and foot and put it right there. And here is a turkey, and here is a coyote. Now, let's zoom out a little bit and take a look at what is track patterns and trails. And as Pammy also said earlier, it's a series of tracks, a track pattern showing a sequence of an animal step. So here is rabbit tracks. And those tracks, oops, and are fairly close together, and that is their track pattern. A trail is zooming out a little bit more, but you're looking at a full line, very long extended line of those track patterns. That is again turkey. And here is coyote in the snow. And we're going to do a little more detail in just a little bit. So the next words that are important to understand and learn are the stride and the straddle of an animal. So, as Pammy said, that stride is the distance between two tracks. If I got the little red there, hope you can see that. You have one set of tracks at the very bottom and the next set of tracks. This is part is going to be really important when you want to learn, and we're not getting into a lot of this tonight, but is the rabbit or squirrel, which these are squirrel, are they walking, hopping, running? And that distance changes with the different um, strides. Straddle is the width of the track. So from side to side, from the outside of this one, whoops, I'm sorry, my cursor outside from here to the outside of here. That is the straddle, excuse me. And we're also going to talk about that a little later. So we're going to zoom out again a little bit more. What is a gait pattern? A gait pattern, again, is indicating if that animal we're going to try is hunting, playing, running. And so we ask some of ourselves questions like, what might it be doing here? We're kind of like a investigator. Um, and these are all the ways the animals can move. We're probably going to do mostly we are mostly doing the walk today and or a jump or a bound. Trotting, galloping, loping, it takes a lot more time and it's actually better done in person. And we're going to give you a list of resources as well to help you learn that if you're interested. Um, so we'll move on to another clue that we want to look at when we're looking at tracks is the habitat. So we're not just looking at the track or the trail, but then we're going to look around and where are we? What kind of habitat are you in? Habitat is a place where an animal lives, eats, and seeks shelter. So you might be in a forest or you might be walking along in the pine bush and be in that pine barrens or your backyard. Or you might be near a lake, pond, vernal pool, and that will give you clues as to what animals may be there. You most likely won't see rabbit tracks next to a lake or a pond. And also when you look at the tracks, and then again, zooming out and looking around even further, you're going to look for animal signs. There are 4 different ways that you can look for signs of an animal around a track. You might see scat. Scat is actually mammal specifically poop. There's a lot of names for animal poop if you want to learn more. Guanos for birds and bats, frass is for insects. But we're tonight just talking about mammals, so scat. And if you take a look here, we'll get into this a little more detail, but you see a lot of evidence of what group of animal that puts you right in right away. You might be looking at chews. This is actually rabbit chews. And if you could zoom in and look at those little teeth marks. Uh, Also, you might find rubs or marks. This is an actual buck rub found in the pine bush, all along that branch there. Or you might find food remains. This is a very common one that you will find in the winter, especially. You'll see lots of it, or late fall. This is a lot of chewed pine cones with the little leaflets from the cones. The squirrels are getting to the seeds, and it's called a midden, M-I-D-D-E-N. So it's a very common thing to see in the wintertime. So when you're looking for those tracks, you're going to ask yourself, what does the track look like? And one of the things that you want to start with is counting those toes. So two-toed animals are um, deer and moose. Four toes on the front and back are in the dog family, coyote family. I'm sorry, dog family, which is dog, coyote, and fox. Bobcat and rabbit are in the cat family as far as those how many toes. There could be four toes in the front or five toes in the back. And those animals are in the mouse and rodent families. So I'm getting ahead of myself. I went and get it. What's the size of the track? How many inches is it? Um, is it small, tiny like a mouse, or really big like a bear? Does it have claws? Whoops, sorry, my click didn't work. Or no claws. That'll also tell you. A lot of times, both coyotes and dogs, depending on what they're doing, will show their claws or not. And specifically with coyote, they always have their two middle toenails facing forward. So that's a way to actually tell if it is a coyote track. And we're going to go into more detail of that as well. So here's an example. I came across this track in the snow. How many inches is it? So, and again, there's those two toes facing forward, and the track's about 2.5 inches long. So it could possibly be coyote. Um, so in other ways and clues to look for and helps a lot is to categorize and put animals into certain groups. And the way we do that is by way the animal moves. So the first group of animals are walkers. Walkers have lean bodies, long legs, and basically walks just like us, left-right movement, like deer. We're going to be talking about, I'm going to be giving you a bunch of animals in these categories in just a little bit. Our second group are bounders. These are animals with short legs, but very lean, long bodies. And they are in the weasel family. And this is a long-tailed weasel. We'll be talking about that in just a minute as well. The next group are waddlers. Waddlers, as just as the word, is going to be short legs, rounder, bigger bodies, and they move and sway side to side like beaver, muskrat, possum, porcupine. And our last group are hoppers. I'm sorry, I didn't do my waddlers there, like an opossum. And our last is the hoppers, which are rabbits, squirrels. Chipmunks are not out in the winter, they're hibernators, but we have lots of species of mice, squirrels, etc. So, adaptations. How do all these animals adapt? Well, an adaptation, as was said earlier, a particular change that helps the animal or plant survive under new conditions. An adaptation can happen over a long time. So winter is a very difficult time for animals. They have to stay warm, they have to find food, and they have to find shelter. And um, because winter has such cold temperatures and sunlight, think about the animal. They need to get energy. We also get energy from the sun, so our days are much shorter. The snow's covering the food, and there's lack of food pretty much altogether in the winter. Lack of those green plants that many animals depend on. So they need those adaptations. There are three basic categories of adaptations. There are structural and physical adaptations, like particularly with their body or specialized body part. They also have physiological changes that can happen, such as actual chemical changes, and we're going to talk about that. And behavioral, such as some may hibernate, some may migrate, and those have their challenges as well. So let's start taking a look. I'm just going to quick check our time here. Sorry if I'm talking so fast. I get excited. Let's start looking at the first group of animals are walkers. So these are the animals that are in the preserve. White-tailed deer, coyote, red fox, gray fox, and domestic dog. Many, many, many people walk their dogs. So I am not going to be able to do every single animal that's in all of these groups that are in the pine bush tonight. I just took two out of each category, and let's look at them up close and personal. So our white-tailed deer. Our white-tailed deer has two toes. It's a hoof. It's about 1.5 to 3.5 inches. And if they're walking along, they usually walk in an offset pattern with them fairly close together. This is a deer trail. If the deer is running, the hooves become spread apart. The dew claws appear. That's these little dots here. They're on the back of the legs. And they um, will use them for pushing off or for slipping. So some of the adaptations of white-tailed deer is they'll take the same trails over and over, just like we drive the same roads to make it easier to maneuver through the snow. They'll also group up together and um, find shelter under canopies and make beds. And when a deer makes a bed, they'll move the snow to allow the leaf to get down to the leaf litter area and keep the snow. And you'll see, if you ever come in a deer area in the winter, you'll see tons of these beds under evergreens. And the other adaptation deer have is, I'm not sure if you know this, deer fur is actually hollow, each strand of hair, and it actually can, each hair can hold air, just like a straw. And so their fur, they actually can stay very, very warm because each one of those hairs are trapping air. They also, this is the coolest, I think, change. Our deer actually change their digestive enzymes in the winter. They switch in the summer, they have lots of greens and berries and different variety of foods, but in the winter, the only thing they end up eating are very woody materials, so their enzymes change. And this is what the end of a branch looks like when a deer chews. They have no top teeth on their skull. They have molars in the back, but they only have their six teeth in the bottom of your mouth, just like ours, and they pull off vegetation and chew that. So that's a really cool adaptation of deer. So I'm trying to include in each slide the animal, some adaptations of their bodies, some signs, and their trail and track patterns. So if you do have any questions, please just put those in the Q&A. Our next animal is coyote in the walkers. Coyotes have four toes and a pad. So does red fox and gray fox and domestic dog. Their tracks are about 2.5 to 3.5 inches. They grow much thicker fur in the winter. They actually use their tails to cover their nose and face when they're huddled and curled up for shelter. They're also opportunistic eaters. They switch their diet from large prey and larger mammals in the summer, spring, summer, and fall, to small mammals and rodents in the winter. This is a coyote track in the snow. This is a coyote trail. And the really neat thing with coyotes, and you can always tell coyote when they walk, they take their front foot, put it in the snow, and their back foot goes in the directly same track. So it looks like one circle, and they go in a very straight, orderly fashion. They are not meandering all over. And that brings me to, and this is actually coyote scat. As I showed in the first slide, there's hair and little bones, maybe some seeds, and very twisty with pointed ends. That's a very big clue of fox and coyote, twisty and pointed ends. I wanted to put this up because I get this question a lot, that what's the difference between the coyote and the dog? And the big difference, well, there's a lot of differences, but first, the dog track is wider and more splayed out. Their nails and pads will be more splayed. Coyotes are much more rounded, oval shape, and you most always see those top two nails. In a dog, you may see a lot of the nails. You can see the coyote nails as well too, but definitely the dog is more splayed out, wider, and not as the same direct registering as clear and concise as the coyote. So the coyote's on your right and the dog is on your left. Um, Our next group of animals are hoppers. We have the eastern cottontail rabbit, mice. We have 6 different species: shrew, 2 species, squirrel, red, gray, and flying squirrel, chipmunk, and meadow vole with 3 species. So the first species I picked because everybody should have these no matter almost anywhere you go in your backyard, in the pine bush, are rabbit tracks. They have 5 toes in the front, 4 in the back. Their tracks are asymmetrical. They actually bring their hind feet forward when they are hopping, and these are their front feet. Their back are always parallel, their front are always asymmetrical. When they are hopping, their trail may look like this. If they're running away from a prey, sometimes you won't even see that back, the other front foot here. You might just see this, and these tracks can be up to 6 feet apart if a rabbit is running. Rabbits grow thicker fur for the winter, and they also eat much more woody plants as well. And they'll leave this along after they eat. They kind of poop and hop and poop and hop. I always equate it to Cocoa Puffs on the snow. And then they chew plants in very unique ways. They take those top 2 teeth and bottom and bite the woody stem right off if it's small enough in a 45-degree angle. Or they will just sit and nibble it like we do, corn on the cob. Or they will do this and just leave little tiny nubs. And you will see all 3 right now. If you were out walking on the blue trail behind the center, they are everywhere. Our other animal is our eastern gray squirrel. Eastern squirrel, the squirrel and the rabbit have very similar feet, 5 toes in the front, 4 in the back. But when the gray squirrel hops, they keep both the back feet and the front feet parallel to each other, unlike the rabbit. And so that's a good way to tell the difference between the rabbit and the squirrel. And you most often see squirrel. Now, this squirrel's actually running a little here. And you'll always see him going. This is a tree up here. I cut the tree off because I couldn't see. But you'll most always see the squirrel tracks going from tree to tree, where rabbit you will not. So that is another. They huddle in tree cavities for the winter. They also use their tails as blankets. And in the winter, they adapt and eat mostly acorns and same thing, pine cones. Our next group of animals, I'm sorry, and they make their homes in trees along storing. Our next animal is meadow vole and mice. This is an actual meadow vole. This is a meadow vole tunnel. You'll see these in the snow. They're awesome. Meadow vole tunnel. So in the snow or under the snow, this is their hole here, their home. And this is actually mouse tracks. This is the difference. You'll see feet and a tail drag, feet and a tail drag. And there's a lot of that on the Blue Trail as well. I was out today with a group, so you could see it. This is the home of a mouse, and they leave what we always joke, call it mice rice. They leave it around their hole that goes down into this snow. A lot of people don't realize that these small mammals actually need snow for survival in the winter. This area from the top of the snow to the ground is called the subnivean zone. And that whole area, animals are very busy and moving around and sleeping and storing food. And some of them even can enter what we call a short-term torpor. And torpor is just a way an animal lowers their body temperature and their metabolism. And then for a while they're sleeping, and could be a days or a week, and then they'll wake up and they'll eat. So this is what you look for with mice and meadow voles. Our next group are bounders. We have both short-tail and long-tail weasels, mink, fisher, and otter. And again, remember they're long bodies with short legs. And we're going to first talk about the long-tail weasel. Their biggest adaptation is they change their fur color from dark to white in the winter with a black tip. Weasels are very unique in that they have super high metabolism and have to eat 50% of their body weight a day to survive. So they need to hunt those rodents in that subnivean zone. This is their tracks, those 5 toes. They have a very funny shaped pad. And this is a typical weasel bounding, where you'll see, and they are kind of rounded and bound, and this is a weasel trail. The other weasel is much bigger in the weasel family, and that is the fisher. That's about 4.5 feet long. They have 5 toes in the front and the back, and their main food, believe it or not, is porcupine, but they also switch in the winter to eat more rodents. They actually darken their fur in the summer. They have very light brown to brown. In the winter, it's very dark. Um, oh, I'm so sorry. Went the wrong way on that. Their trail, their track, excuse me, has a little bit more elongated footprint. They also will leave scat, and fisher scat is very twisty, almost looks like a rope. And again, with those points, sometimes it's not so much in the winter, but definitely in the summer, you can even find a porcupine quill in their tracks. They use logs and old beaver lodges for homes. And the biggest adaptation that I thought was really unique was that they have delayed implantation, which means they can become pregnant and wait up to 11 to 12 months before they actually, the gestation period to have a baby. So they would become pregnant and then wait to the optimal time. So I thought like bear. So that was really cool. Here, and this is why we don't get into loping and trotting, because there's so many variations. This is all fisher, different fisher tracking, loping, I'm sorry, trail patterns. And I just want to stress that all animals' trail patterns and tracks, their main reason for why and how they're walking, again, thinking like that animal, is to conserve energy. So that's what they need to do, and that will change depending on depth of snow. If you look to the far right, there's a lot of snow here compared to way on the left. So they can make larger leaps and not waste as much energy as they would have to over here. The other neat adaptation of fishers is their front paws can rotate 180 degrees, so they're phenomenal tree climbers, and therefore also getting different types of food, running up a tree, down real fast. Our next group of animals are waddlers. I'm swatching the time here. And again, those are short bodies, short legs, and that's skunk, raccoon, porcupine, woodchucks / groundhog, opossum, beaver, and bear. Yes, bear. We've seen evidence. We've actually seen the bear and evidence that a sow and a cub over the last 3 years have been overwintering in the preserve. So we do like to mention that. Our first one here, little raccoon. They are in trees, cavities. Their patterns are really easy to see and find. They look like small little human hands, both their front and their back. They have 5 toes in the front, 5 toes in the back. They also increase their body weight and thicker fur. They also can enter torpor in the winter. They den and huddle together, and they again change their diet to rely on the nuts and seeds, and of course, any human garbage or other things that they can find. Um, and their trail pattern looks like that. And it is very clear when that's raccoon. And raccoon scat can have seeds and like if there's leftover wild grapes somewhere or some red berries, and they have a very blunt end. Raccoon, very blunt. Our next animal is the Virginia opossum. Again, 5 toes in the front and in the back. The difference with the opossum compared to the raccoon, oh, I am so sorry. I'm going to go back here. Is the thumb that sticks out. Um, or shall we say oppose almost. That's the difference. Another difference is they get a very big layer of fat. It's called brown fat. It's actually light yellow to light brown, but it's called brown fat. It's to supply that heat and energy. They also go into torpor and they shelter in tree cavities, brush piles, and yes, if you have a shed or man-made structure, you may find them there as well. And they also forage for seeds and nuts and human garbage in the winter. And this is a very distinct opossum trail here, and this is their tail drag. They have a long, thin pink tail, and that is a very that is a possum. I decided, well, we all decided, Pammy and I, to put in our little woodchuck because it's been so close to Groundhog Day. Our woodchuck is a waddler, but however, it is hibernating. But they are what we call a true hibernator. A true hibernator means their body temperature drops, their heart rate slows way down, as well as their respiration. And no matter what you do, you cannot wake them up. So that is a true hibernator. A lot more animals are not true hibernators where they do wake up and go back to sleep. Our last animal tonight, and this is not a mammal, but I like to put it in because it is seen on the trail, is our famous turkey. So a turkey always has three toes, excuse me. They get an increase in fat. They also get entire new plumage, feathers in the fall through a full body molting, excuse me, that's when they shed their feathers. And a turkey on average has 3 to 5,000 feathers. So they actually can stay very warm, except for their feet. That's not covered. They roost, meaning they'll stay up in conifers, and they also shift. Um, um, to mostly acorns and agricultural seeds and grains. So that's why you see turkeys out in fields, and they also go into flocks um, in in the winter, where you do not see that in the spring when they're setting up territory and mating. This is a turkey trail. This is another sign of turkey is turkey scat. It's kind of rolled up. And this is a wing print in the snow. So when birds take off, if you're lucky enough to see beautiful wing prints in the snow, I was able to get that, and it was so big. I said it's got to be turkey. So that is actually a turkey wing print. And if you have a bird feeder, sometimes you can even fresh snow. You can see that right under your bird feeders. The last slide I just like to mention here, these are all the books that we use on a regular basis. Pull them out, look to ID. If we want to check that straddle or the stride length or some of those um, other types of pattern lopes, bounding, will refer to these books. And the last one is a little tiny pocket size. They have tracks and scat ones at this website. I carry them with me all the time. Not only do they have the tracks on them, they'll give you description, and they actually, I should have showed, they have a little measuring tape on the other sides, and you can really see, okay, is this a fox or is this a coyote? And so you can carry it right on you. And the more you can get out and look and explore on your own, you can go in the same area over and over and be surprised at how much you can look and find and discover just by observing and getting out there and thinking like that animal. Where do I've got to find shelter? Where can I get food? And how can I stay warm? So with that, 5 minutes, well,
You want,
7 minutes
oops,
left.
sorry. You
Sorry.
want to leave that slide up for a minute in case people
Sure.
want to
A-
take a
a-
picture or something.
Absolutely.
And
And yeah,
I don't see any more questions in the Q&A, but if anybody has any questions, now is the time.
let me unshare here.
Yeah,
Yeah, hopefully.
you could do it.
Oh, come
Just click to the pretty picture.
on. I'll click to the pretty picture. There we go. So I just want to say thank you for joining us tonight. Our center is open 7 days a week, 10 to 4 on the weekend, 9 to 4 on the weekdays. Our trails never close, so you can go out and look anytime. And just happy, happy tracking. It is so much fun to learn. You never stop learning when you're out tracking. So, and I am so mad that I am not able to stop sharing here.
It's
Hold on.
okay, Jackie. No worries. So we do have a question. Do we have a tracking club at the Pine Bush? Um,
Oh,
not right now.
not now.
But that's a good um question. Maybe someday. And then another one. Maya asked, how do I get more involved with animal tracking? What is the best way to learn? Are there online local classes I can attend? Jackie, you want to take that one?
Well,
All those
yes,
resources.
yes, those resources are definitely. Another thing that I recommend people doing is taking pictures of not only the track, but then taking pictures of the trail, and then using that to go back and look up because you want to get the distance. And if you forget how big the actual track is, you can put something next to it, like maybe a key, or if you carry a Swiss Army knife or something to give you reference, and then you can look at those tracks that way and go back and look up those books. But those books are really great. There are very limited tracking classes, and you can get very expensive and go with some of the big name people. Um, or you can start learning a little on your own. I know I did some of mine through the Endocina Center, which is up in Saratoga, through the native family, the Bruchaks. I did some training with them. I know now, believe it or not, Kripalu sometimes has a person there that does animal tracking. That's very expensive to go there. Um, I'm trying to think of anywhere else.
Someone
Um,
mentioned in the Q&A that there's a place called Alderleaf Wilderness College that has a nice online tracking course, and
ooh,
there and there's a free tracking club in the town of Nassau. So check that out at Mud Pond Preserve, apparently. And another person said the Northeast Wildlife Tracking Conference is a great place to check out. So
okay, fabulous. Thank you so much.
thank you, Deborah. All right. I
Thank you
think
so much for sharing
that's
those places to do more animal tracking. But now you got me
yeah.
thinking we should maybe have tracking like on a Saturday once a month.